What's going on, family? This is Scrapbook Boxing Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. I want to continue my African-American fight series with a fighter by the name of Jack Benjamin Wilson. Jack Benjamin Wilson's fighting name was Jackie Wilson. He was born in South Carolina on January 1st, 1909. He moved to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where he began his boxing career. His professional debut was on December 6, 1929. As a featherweight, he stood 5 foot 5 inches and had a 65-inch reach. He eventually moved up to lightweight. His total bouts was 150 with 100 wins, 44 losses, 20 knockouts, and he would only be stopped 6 times. He was in there with great fighters such as Tommy Spengel with a record of 19-4 at the time. No losses. He had 19 no losses at the time. And he defeated Tommy Spengel. Tommy Spengel was in there with everybody. He was a phenomenal fighter. I do have his profile. I will be showing that at some point in time. So I can assure you he was a very, very good fighter. He would fight Willie Joyce. Willie Joyce was in there with everybody. Armstrong, you name it, he was in there with that fighter. At the time that he fought Willie Joyce, he had a record of 65-16. He had lost to Willie Joyce, but like I said, Willie Joyce was a phenomenal fighter. He fought him sometime in March 1946, and just a few days later, he would fight Willie Pep. Willie Pep at the time had 93-1. He only lost to Sammy Angott at that time. He had a 63 fight, I believe, winning streak before he met Sammy Angott. And Willie Pep had wars with Sandy Sadler. He was in a plane accident and he made a comeback and he won his title again. So he had a phenomenal spirit, but he was an outstanding fighter, was Willie Pep. He lost to Willie Pep, but like I said, Willie Pep was an outstanding fighter. Fought him sometime in March 1946. He would fight Chalky Wright. Chalky Wright had a record of 156-37, I believe, at the time. There was a no contest. He fought him in March of 45. He would fight Cleo Shane. By the way, Chalky Wright would be a featherweight champion. He fought Cleo Shane. Cleo Shane had a record of 54-32. He defeated him. Fought him sometime in 1944. He would fight Harry Jeffra. Harry Jeffra had a record of 89-13 at the time that he would face him. He would defeat him August sometime in 45. He would fight Leo Ruddock. Leo Ruddock was a phenomenal fighter. I believe I did a profile on him. If I did not, I will be doing him shortly. He's been in some controversial fights, but he was an outstanding fighter. He had a 66-15 fight streak at the time, and he had lost to Leo Ruddock. Jackie Wilson fought the who's who of boxing, and I can't say enough about him. He fought a guy by the name of Maxie Shapiro. Maxie Shapiro had a record of 44-5 at the time. He was a very good Jewish fighter, and he fought 6 world champions. So he brought a lot to the table at that time. He would fight Philadelphia's Bobby Green. Bobby Green was a very good trainer now. Well, not now, but at one point in time. And he was a phenomenal featherweight out of Philadelphia. Fought the who's who of boxing. I believe he had a record of something like 33-16 at the time that Jackie Wilson would fight him. So he brought a lot to the table. He would fight Joe Hall a couple of times. 106-25. Unbelievable record. Sammy Angott. Sammy Angott, I believe, was like 32-12. He would lose to Sammy Angott. But like I said, Sammy Angott would be champion. He also broke Willie Pep's winning streak. He would fight Charlie Burns. Charlie Burns had a record of 33-8 at the time. Charlie Burns was in there with everybody. You go to the Encyclopedia of Boxing and you turn page after page and you'll find Charlie Burns' name in there somewhere. And he had 2 different Charlie Burns. One had an IE, the other one had an LY. That Charlie Burns fought Sugar Ray Robinson in Sugar Ray Robinson's 12th professional fight. Sugar Ray Robinson defeated him. But like I said, Charlie Burns fought the who's who of boxing. He would fight Eddie Shea. Eddie Shea had a record of like 88-24. He would defeat Eddie Shea. He would defeat Tommy Paul. Tommy Paul had a record of like 67-11. Fight Midget Wargas. He would have a draw with Midget Wargas. Midget Wargas had a record of 120-8. But Midget Wargas would be champion. He would fight Johnny Pena, very good Filipino fighter, 50-19. Defeat him in his like at his like 40-something fight. Phenomenal fighter. Freddie Miller would be champion, 191 with 20 losses. He would defeat him. Freddie Miller would be champion. Pete DeGrassi fought Armstrong for everybody, 79-47. I believe it was his record. I got to double check. He defeated him. Everett Reitmeyer, 96. A lot of people don't know who this fighter is. He lost 10. He lost to Everett Reitmeyer, did Jackie Wilson. But Everett Reitmeyer was a phenomenal fighter. Claude Varner, Richie Lemons, he would take the National Boxing Association, the NBA title, away from Richie Lemons. So here you go. Phenomenal fighter. I'm just going off of memory. I'm not reading anything. I'm about to show you right now his fight record just to verify. I like to show receipts of what I'm talking about. And as you can see here, 1931 is when he actually turned professional. That's when he actually turned professional. Pat Flattery, he lost in 10 rounds. 1932, February 26, he would fight Willie Davis. Willie Davis was a very good fighter. He would defeat him in 10 rounds. June 28th, he would fight Ross Fields. Ross Fields in Pittsburgh. He would be stopped in 10 rounds. And as you can look here, you can see he had a very good year in 1933. He would fight Midget Wargas, only his 7th professional fight, February 3rd. Pittsburgh, he would have a 10-round draw. Johnny Mitchell, Tommy Paul, Johnny Pena. Look at all these victories. Eddie Shea. He would knock out Tommy Paul the second time that he fought him. Benny Britt in Pittsburgh. He would defeat him. This is fascinating. Johnny Fitzpatrick, another good fighter. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, defeat him in 8 rounds. 1934, he only lost one fight to Joe Kahn. December 16th, Mexico City. You lose to him in 10 rounds. He would beat everybody else, Bud Dempsey included. 1935, 1936, another good year. Phenomenal. He would knock out Gilbert Johnson. 1936, Bobby Dean, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He would knock him out in 2 rounds. Lee Shepard, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He would defeat him in 10 rounds, December 3rd, 1936. I have every last one of these fighters' profiles. This is the way I always show you a photo, his record, and his bio. So I can assure you. 1937, February 9th, Freddie Miller. Like I said, Freddie Miller would become a champion. Fought him in Pittsburgh and defeated him in 10 rounds. Mike Belois. Mike Belois was a champion. February 22nd, 1937. He would fight him in Pittsburgh and defeat him in 10 rounds. Mike Belois had a brother by the name of Steve Belois, and both fighters were phenomenal fighters. Would fight Charlie Burns. I mentioned him in my introduction. March 22nd, 1937, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, defeat him in 8 rounds. Like I said, Charlie Burns was Sugar Ray Robinson's 12th professional fight. Freddie Miller, April 26th, Cincinnati, Ohio, defeat him in 10 rounds. Joe Brown, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, he knocked him out in 4 rounds, 1937. Pete DeGrassi, Los Angeles, defeat him in 10 rounds. Speedy Dido, very good he was a very good Filipino fighter, I'm trying to say. Stockton, California, defeat him in 10 rounds. Look at this, Richie Fontaine, another good fighter. Leo Ruddock, fought him twice, 2 times in a row, August 19th and September 17th. St. Louis, Missouri, both times, and both times he had a draw. 10-round and 15-round draw with Leo Ruddock. Young Reitmeyer, St. Louis, Missouri, he lost to him in 10 rounds, October 12, 1937. 1938 was a good year for all fighters. Like I said, Henry Armstrong, that's when he collected all 3 belts. In 1938, he had the featherweight, the lightweight, and the welterweight championship, who collected from Barney Ross, Pete Cerrone, and Lou Ambers. Joe Louis, that's when he actually knocked out Max Schmeling, second time in Yankee Stadium. So that was a very good year for fighters. He would face Leo Ruddock June 17th, 1938. Baltimore, Maryland, he would lose to him in 15 rounds. He would face Leo Ruddock January 10th, Pennsylvania, and he would have a 10-round draw. Sammy Aingot, March 22nd, Milwaukee, he'd lose to him in 10 rounds. 1939. Look at all of the fights he had in 1939. Look at the fighters he fought. February 8th, Mickey Miller, Sydney, Australia. He knocked him out in 4 rounds. Now the rest of the fights, look at this, all in Australia, in Melbourne. Joe Hall, Claude Vanner, all these good fighters. I have all their profiles. Sammy Garcia, another good fighter. These are all wins. All wins. 1940, he lost 3 fights. March 31st, he would lose to Harris Blake, New Orleans, in 10 rounds. He fought Bobby Green April 25th. He's the Philadelphia fighter I was mentioning to you about. 1940, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, he would defeat him in 10 rounds. He would fight Leo Ruddock in Chicago, Illinois, lose to him in 10 rounds on June 3rd, 1940. He would fight Harry Jaffa, who would be champion, August 20th, 1940, Youngstown, Ohio. He would lose to him in 10 rounds. Frank Terranova, Baltimore, He would defeat him in 8 rounds on December 12th. 1941, January 23rd, he would face Maxie Shapiro, Baltimore, Maryland, defeat him in 10 rounds. Leo Ruddock again, Baltimore, Maryland, he would lose to him in 10 rounds. Chalky Wright, Baltimore, Maryland, he would lose to him in 10 rounds. He would fight Leo Ruddock once again in Toledo, Ohio, lose to him in 10 rounds. But November 18th, 1941, Jackie Wilson would face Richie Lemons, Los Angeles, and defeat him in 12 rounds for the NBA Featherweight Championship of the world. He would have another fight with Richard Lemons in Los Angeles and defeat him in 12 rounds. 1942, Abe Jenner, Terry Young, he would lose both fights. Not the greatest year for him, but you can see he starts gassing out at this time. 1943, he had lost his title. And, I just want to salute Jackie Wilson for an phenomenal performance in his fighting career. He was an outstanding African-American fighter, and we got to salute these fighters because they're not getting the credit that they do deserve. I don't hear their names on these channels, so I have to take the initiative and talk about these great African-American fighters. This is Scrapbook.